Close your eyes or gaze downward. Think about putting your Monday aside and coming into this space to be with your community and your community members. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. Give yourself permission to let go of the busyness of your day, becoming more aware and present in this physical space designed to have productive community interaction with the people who care a lot about how our city thrives. So let's be curious and thoughtful and compassionate as we enter in this space of discussion and decision making. With that, we're going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem James.
Present.
Council members Leaks May.
Here.
Mikulski.
Here.
Polika.
Here.
Mayor Piana.
Here. Next up is the approval of the agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as published.
Support.
Moved by James and supported by Polika. Mr. Clerk.
James.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes, and that is approved unanimously. We are moving on to our first item on the agenda, which is presentations, and tonight we have 4A, presentation of the July 2022 Ferndale Beautification Awards, and I think we have 2 representatives from the Beautification Commission. Okay. It's good to see you. Come up to the microphone.
Yep. Go ahead. Sure. Hello. Again, we're here to present the Wonderful Beautification Awards. A lot of entries.
Do you have a PowerPoint?
I was just, there is one? Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
And Michael, could you aim the microphone down for them, please?
Down here. All right, there we go. I think we're all set. Sorry for some technical difficulties, but here we are to present the July Beautification Awards. So the first award winner goes to Ken and Shirley at 170 Wordsworth. I don't believe they're here. All right. Still we want to present and give them the recognition they deserve. You can see this is quite an elegant and well-groomed yard. You can see that they really take use of the sun and the shade, and so we wanted to present them with this award. So,
Congratulations.
thank them. Yes.
Ken and Shirley.
For them not here. All
I
right.
thought they were. I thought you guys were going to come up. We didn't want to come up.
Oh.
Oh, that's not you.
They're the other Ken and Shirley.
All right. So our next award winner here is Brian Hill.
And he's not here.
And I believe he's not here as well. Okay, great, wonderful. All right, so you can see this is our award winner. Here you can see it's quite a non-traditional landscaping here. I really like the use of the non-traditional ground cover. And also they've incorporated plants you can see in those very untraditional planters. And so we thought it was a good use of non-traditional and something certainly unique that we're looking for.
And
So-
certainly saves water.
Yes, but another one of the priorities that we have looking for. So again, congratulations to Brian.
Yay, Brian.
All right, and then the last one here is to Stephen and Carol on Maplehurst. Is that,
That's
you? If you want to come up and maybe say a few words, how you would like to describe it, or anything you'd like to say.
Well, I've been gardening forever, and I came from a much bigger space, so this is actually a lot easier. We do the back and the side. But this year, I combined with my neighbors right next door, and we blended our beds together and ran a whole bunch of impatiens. So this just shows that, but if you looked at it in a different way, it really looks nice because it's one long trailing bit of flowers. And I like to garden, so that's it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Sure, why not?
Okay.
I don't care.
Picture.
Are you coming in too?
You want Ed, you want me?
Oh, I could get it. I was so more concerned about
That's what we have. Congratulations to all the winners.
Thank you.
All right. We are moving on to our second presentation of the evening. 4B, end of the program construction and demolition ordinance recommendations. And presenting this tonight is Claire.
Hello. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm very excited today to introduce you to Michelle Marin, who is a U of M graduate student that has been working with Ferndale on a very exciting zero waste project that she'll be presenting to you this evening. This project comes from a direct recommendation of the 2020 Downtown Waste Reduction and Recycling Master Plan, which has a goal to reach a greater waste diversion rate. So I'm incredibly grateful for her work and expertise these past 9 weeks, and I really look forward to her walking through her recommendations for this project. And, you know, we can follow up with some questions. I will be here to answer questions, as well as Michelle and Emily Loomis as well, if necessary. So I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Michelle. Welcome. And we're so
Thank
glad
you.
you've been helping us out.
Ooh, let me just figure out. I need Claire to immediately step in.
The view. Oh, yep, there you go.
Is that good? All right. Well, I'm going to do this. Okay, thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. As Claire said, my name is Michelle Marin, and this summer, under her mentorship, I completed, sorry? Oh, so sorry. I thought someone was talking. I worked for the Eagle-funded Catalyst Leadership Circle Fellowship. The Catalyst Leadership Circle is designed to help Michigan's leading sustainability communities connect, network, and troubleshoot sustainability challenges. Prior to grad school, I worked as a high school science teacher and then later as an environmental education specialist with waste hauler and processor green waste. Today, I present recommendations for a construction and demolition ordinance for the city of Ferndale. Forward-thinking cities like Ferndale have been crafting policy for years to address waste, from everything from food scraps to single-use plastics. But the single largest contributor to waste isn't happening inside of our homes and offices, it's demolition. So, ooh. In fact, in the US, the aggregate of the entire municipal solid waste stream, so yard trimmings, food scraps, everything, is still less than 100 million tons less than just the concrete that's produced through demolition practices. Now, the state does have a 45% landfill diversion goal, and the Michigan Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act supports recycling and reusing C&D waste, but there is no specific state law that minimizes C&D waste. As Claire mentioned, Ferndale's downtown waste reduction and recycling plan does, however, include a goal to divert C&D waste, which is great. My assignment has been to create a city ordinance to address C&D waste that is feasible and effective. My project deliverables include the draft C&D ordinance with possible incentives for property owners and contractors, a comprehensive report detailing my research findings and analyses, and stakeholder guides and outreach materials to assist those that are going to be impacted by a new C&D ordinance. Although addressing the volume of C&D waste can seem incredibly overwhelming, states and cities across the U.S. have created very impactful regulations. The most progressive type of C&D waste policy that's commonly pursued is called mandated deconstruction. So unlike traditional demolition, which involves leveling the building, aggregating all the waste for off-hauling, deconstruction instead employs labor-powered technology. In other words, there's actually people on site taking apart the materials piece by piece. So there's no mechanical excavators, it's crews in there taking everything apart. A uniquely trained workforce is needed for successful deconstruction. By deconstructing a building, workers are better able to preserve materials for reuse, and they're better able to sort those materials that are fit for recycling. This type of ordinance is entirely possible in Ferndale, and I hope I will show you why. To craft the C&D ordinance, I researched the current state of C&D waste in the city, as well as possibilities for how it can be addressed. I analyzed existing C&D ordinances, including in cities across the map that you see there, waste reports and laws that would impact any type of regulation, and 5 years of demolition data in Ferndale. Although no municipality in Michigan has yet adopted a deconstruction ordinance, many are drafting them right now. Oops. The second component of my research approach involved meetings and interviews with folks who've already successfully mandated deconstruction in their town, industry experts, local stakeholders who will be impacted, and potential market and workforce partners. City employees and waste managers from both Palo Alto and Portland have shared very valuable intel with me about how they were able to craft an ordinance that's effective for them. And those two cities have ordinances which are operationally very different from one another, so it's been helpful to pick out the information that is applicable to Ferndale. And those cities have both been successful at achieving over an 80% landfill diversion rate through these policies. I've also been able to chat with leading experts, including members of MSU's domicology department, who study the life cycle of a building with the aim of achieving a truly circular economy for hard infrastructure. My initial belief that landfill diversion in Ferndale would be a daunting task without state regulation from the top down was fortunately proven wrong, because there's a lot of individuals already working towards this type of economy. And conversations with potential partners illuminated a really constructive network available in the region. I also had notable chats with several demolition contractors who operate in Ferndale, because they're the stakeholders who are probably going to be the most impacted by this type of regulation. These insightful chats helped me understand that deconstruction requirements will not result in an operational pivot by demolition contractors. They don't want to do that deconstruction. Instead, there's going to be an emergence of an entirely new workforce that focuses on deconstruction. They do not do demolition. Detailed notes from every one of those meetings that was listed in the previous slide is available for the Ferndale City Manager's Office to access. It's worth noting that the term recyclable does not inherently indicate anything about a material's composition. The only thing that recyclable means is that there's a market for that reused material. Fortunately, markets are created by people. And with the rising materials costs, specifically in the building industry, coupled with all of the negative environmental and health impacts of demolition, there's really never been a better time to pursue something like this because recycle and reuse are becoming more and more attractive options every single day. And the C&D industry has great potential to evolve into an entirely circular economy. C&D processes already exist. C&D recycle and reuse processes are already in existence in Michigan. There are many salvage companies that are desperate for new source material, that are salvaging everything from appliances to light fixtures to lumber. And lumber's already getting recycled into making mulch. And there's options to recycle that lumber into energy. Asphalt shingles are already getting recycled in Michigan to go into new roadway construction. Even recycled insulation is available. But I don't want to paint an incorrect picture. Recycling markets absolutely need further development. Ooh, oh, that's how that works. Okay, here we go. Through my research, but recycling markets need expansion. Several industry leaders I met with remarked that with existing technology, nearly 100% of a building can be recycled. It's just a matter of expanding that market. And it's not just a fantasy. My previous employer, Green Waste, they have several C&D recycling operations. And their third-party verified diversion rates show that over 99% of the wood, drywall, and concrete that's coming from C&D processes is getting recycled. And this is a for-profit company that emerged as a result of policy that incentivized people to recycle. Through my research, I've learned that mandating deconstruction is not only extremely environmentally beneficial, but it's downright financially lucrative, or has the potential to be. This chart compares the costs and impacts of demolishing versus deconstructing an average house, largely referencing locally collected data. Although the operation cost of deconstruction is certainly more expensive than demolition, the resale value has the potential to completely offset that cost. And the landfill diversion rate that's offered through deconstruction makes it perhaps the most beneficial of any type of waste management strategy that is pursued in order to reach sustainability goals. Also, we got to look at the new build end, because if we have more recycled material and reused material available, there's less of a need to source raw material for new construction. And if you look at the chart, the carbon emissions associated with raw materials versus recycled materials make it an incredibly attractive option if you're going to pursue climate change addressing policy. But let's focus on Ferndale. That's where we are. The current state of C&D waste in Ferndale can be summarized in 3 major points. There is currently a lack of data collection. General contractors will employ demolition contractors for their demolition needs, and contractors absolutely do recycle and salvage when it's economically convenient for them. However, because there's no data collection, we can't really tell to what rate they are doing those things. Fortunately, there are a lot of possibilities that would really help these necessary state shifts to be much more manageable. A data tracking software partnership with a company called Green Halo will allow Ferndale C&D to be collected at no cost to the city, property owners, or contractors. This is a software that's widely used across the West Coast, and they are very eager to get into the Michigan market. And as a result, they've offered a free service agreement to Ferndale. There are certainly other software companies available, but none that I've found which would offer the same type of free service agreement. Also, federal tax credits already exist that incentivize property owners to salvage their materials and to do so through deconstruction practices. There's also EGLE grants out there, grants for recycling projects that total $15 million in 2022 alone. In fact, I spoke with a contractor just last week who's up near in Bailey, Michigan, who just received Eagle funding to do a deconstruction training as well as expand recycling operations. This is a for-profit roofing contractor. So Eagle's interested. There's a bunch of other funding options. Portland actually offered $3,000 cash incentives to contractors who wanted to pursue that deconstruction training. Here's the cash, get your certification. Now we can do deconstruction. As the cost of raw materials continues to increase, demand for recycled and reused goods is growing. There are many local organizations and companies that are looking for partnerships and looking for source material. Now, I'd like to present my C&D ordinance recommendation to be overseen and enforced by the Zero Waste Program Coordinator and the Building Division. This ordinance is made of 4 phases. 2 phases, 2 and 3, have 3 stages within them. The idea is that each phase and stage will be implemented 1 year apart, beginning in 2023 with phase 1, and then 2028 in phase 4. Phase 1 requires materials tracking for all demolitions. There is no reuse, recycle, or deconstruction requirement at all. Essentially, it's business as usual, but report on how you're disposing of your waste. When hauling waste, they're already receiving weight tags, they're already receiving salvage reports. The only difference here is now you've got to report it. So and it will be part of the demolition permit process. Through the Green Halo Partnership, these values are computed into waste diversion reports. Phase 1 will help to reveal what type of recycle and reuse markets need further expansion. Phase 2 requires landfill diversion for demolished buildings that were built before 1931. The past 5 years of demolition data show that this makes up roughly half of the stock that's getting demolished. Phase 2 will be rolled out in stages, with each stage requiring a higher and higher landfill diversion rate. In other words, by stage A of phase 2, 25% of the waste that's generated cannot go to landfill. It has to be diverted from the landfill through reuse or recycling. Oh, and phase 2 will require permit holders to create a waste management report and a waste management plan at the beginning. The templates of both are included in this final report. Phase 3 is identical to phase 2, but now it applies to all buildings, not just those built before 1931. Just like phase 2, phase 3 will be rolled out in stages, with each stage requiring a higher and higher landfill diversion rate. The final phase, phase 4, includes full building deconstruction requirements. No demolitions are permitted, no excavation equipment may be used, and certified deconstruction contractors must be employed. Exemptions can be applied for during the permitting process with the Building Division. By this implementation phase, deconstruction practices will probably already be used to some extent in order to reach those earlier diversion goals. The city can support deconstruction trainers to help that local workforce adapt to deconstruction well before this phase is even introduced, so that it's not overwhelming to people when these new requirements are rolled out. This phase approach is designed to create an ordinance that is influential and realistic. The recommended timeline involves each phase being implemented 1 year apart, and you can think of it as 3 different phases. Not phases, there's 4 phases, but 3 different sections. You do the data tracking, and then you do the scaled landfill diversion, and then the deconstruction. However, you may find out that a lot of contractors are already at that 25% mark. That's great. Or you may find that getting from 50 to 75% diversion is going to take longer than a year. Okay, that's fine too. This timeline can absolutely be adapted based on the data that's collected in phase 1. Guides and outreach materials are to help stakeholders adapt to these new regulations are included in the report and are intended to be distributed when folks apply for demolition permits. This includes a shifts and lifts guide that details the necessary changes that stakeholders have to make and the necessary government action that is going to support that new requirement. There's a guide for new builds and remodels that offers how-to support for property owners and contractors that want to use more recycled and reused material in their new builds. Because a C&D ordinance can certainly help drive the development of recycling markets, but there's no driver like demand for those types of materials in new builds to really push these types of practices on the demolition end. A garage sale flyer offers guidance for those seeking to divert their C&D waste through resale. In other words, instead of selling material out of their garage, how to sell material that makes up their garage. And to support Phase 2 requirements, there's a waste management plan and a waste management report template. To complement the recommended timeline, we suggest beginning formal ordinance development this upcoming fall. To support the recycle and reuse market development, Claire Dion is communicating with Next Cycle Michigan, which is the organization that supports the city's compost pilot, in order to help support and develop a Michigan convening of communities that are seeking to pursue similar C&D requirements. Ferndale can also begin right now to support and encourage deconstruction trainers. The final report will be shared on the Eagle website and available not just for Ferndale, but for all communities across the state who are considering taking action on C&D waste. Addressing the massive volume of C&D waste can seem daunting, but it can also help Ferndale continue to develop as a sustainability regional leader. The C&D ordinance offers Ferndale the opportunity to meet and exceed the waste diversion goals that it has set out. And myself, Claire, and Emily are happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Fantastic presentation and really interesting information about deconstruction, which I don't have a lot of knowledge about. It doesn't sound like Michigan has a growing knowledge base, right?
Oh yeah, it's certainly growing. Lansing's they're one of the cities in Michigan pursuing a draft deconstruction ordinance right now.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Are there any questions from council about the direction of this?
I do have a couple of questions through the chair. First of all, fantastic presentation. Thank you very much. I learned a lot of information that you shared tonight. I'm curious to know, have you found that deconstruction companies charge a lower, equal to, or higher price for the product that they remove out of a project? When they're reselling it, are they selling it at an equal price to what someone could buy new, or?
Definitely lower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Certainly.
So it is so for someone to buy that product, it is cost prohibitive, or it's not cost prohibitive than buying a new product.
It's cheaper to buy reclaimed materials, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people will sell more because it is reclaimed.
Vintage, yeah, no.
Yes, yeah, like bricks from old buildings. And,
Sure, with the story, right?
Yeah.
That's typically not what's seen here.
Okay. So you're suggesting that this be done, the 4 phases be done over 5 years, I believe 23 to 28. You mentioned 2 cities that have already done it. One was Portland. I don't remember what the other one was.
Palo Alto in California.
Palo Alto. Did they take that much time when they started their projects, or were they a little more aggressive or take longer?
So they were both more aggressive, and that's because both of those cities benefit from state policy, which also has recycle requirements for C&D waste.
Okay. So they were pushed into
Yeah, a little bit.
performing. Okay. And then the other thing is, you mentioned a 1931
Yes.
property buildings that were built after 1931, and I was wondering why you chose that year, because a lot of homes in Ferndale were built prior to 1931, and those are actually the houses that I would think you would want to deconstruct,
Right.
because they have asbestos, lead, all of that. So why did you say everything after 31?
So before 1931 first, because.
Oh, before 31.
Yes,
I'm
before.
sorry. I
I'm so
misunderstood.
sorry, yes, before
Okay.
1931, for the reasons you listed,
Okay.
as well as the fact that typically the building materials are of higher quality back then.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. So it'll help develop that market because people can see,
Okay.
oh, this is actually worth something.
Well, then you get the vintage, and then you get them jacking up the price. So that's why I asked my first question. That's all I have. Again, thank you very much.
Sure, yeah.
If I may, through the chair, so it was a great, a wonderful presentation. I learned a lot. I think that's something the city of Ferndale takes on, it would be really beneficial to us. Are there any places that I can kind of just look and see the rebuild utilizing those recycled materials, really?
So we have one major deconstruction trainer in the region. They're based out of Detroit. It's Architectural Salvage Warehouse. They have a warehouse and they also have a deconstruction arm. As far as I know, they don't do new builds. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint, okay, where is this going? But based on my research, it doesn't look like people are making entirely new builds out of reused materials. It's a little bit here, a little bit there, filling in. So it'd be difficult to say.
May I follow up on that, her question about the city of Detroit? Is the city of Detroit at all in your research? It seems to me that they also have carbon reduction goals and that this would be something that they would be focusing on too. What did you find in your research about Detroit?
Yes, they definitely are. In fact, Claire and I have met several times with the group, a part of a working group that is pursuing similar deconstruction type of requirements in Detroit. Detroit's obviously a different demolition climate because demos aren't happening to make way for new builds, so it's a little bit different how the permitting process would work. But do you have anything to add they're pursuing it for sure.
They are.
Yeah, the Detroit Green Task Force.
Okay. I'm curious about their workforce development because Detroit has a whole workforce development arm. So I'm interested in how the deconstruction side is partnering with the workforce development arm and how are there opportunities to partner there?
I would say certainly.
Okay.
Did you want to add?
No.
Okay.
Through the chair, if I could piggyback on that, Pontiac actually did a program that was deconstruction based. And there was a unit up there called Revive Pontiac. So I was hoping if you could provide any sort of insight into how that developed over time, if that's still in use, what they achieved with that program, that would help us get a baseline, especially because they're in Oakland County. They're somebody
Right.
to partner with.
I'm not familiar with them, but fortunately, I'm not officially done with the report yet, so I'm happy to see, are they still going on, and I'll chat with whoever's there to add some more information to this report about Revive Pontiac.
That's great.
And then I'm curious too, will your report contain how the state will continue supporting cities who adopt this, who are early adopters going forward? Are they just going to let us go do it and then navigate on our own? Because it's workforce development, and we're such a small city that we don't have workforce development services. So for us to actually build on that, we would need a partner. That's not a program that our staff can
Totally.
take on and do.
Yeah, and that's definitely something Claire and I have discussed. Yeah.
So, through the chair, to sort of develop off of that a little bit, I'm on the SEMCOG Legislative Policy Platform Task Force. We just kicked off our first meeting last week. If you have identified either barriers within Michigan law that need to be changed in order to facilitate deconstruction, please let me know so I can bring that to the attention of the task force. And similarly, if there are legislative, incentives that need to be lobbied for, let me know so that I can bring that to the task force. This is exactly the kind of thing that
That a task
the
force
reason
does.
that I raised my hand for more work for,
Actually, you have three powerful advocates. Raylon's on the board of the Michigan Municipal League, and I'm the former board president. So between the three of us, we could have a very Care Bear stare down on any legislative asks that we would need to push through the system. we're offering that on behalf
Perfect.
of the staff.
And also through the chair, as a member of the ordinance committee, I am curious whether your report will propose sort of a first draft of an ordinance, or whether we have to cobble something together on our own.
No cobbling needed. There's a first draft in there. It's about 20 pages, so there's some good content in there.
Great.
Hopefully usable content.
Well, just based off of feedback and comments, you have drawn our interest and attention, and I think we're looking forward to seeing where this goes and being presented with your final report and documents from staff. So,
Great.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Fantastic work.
Thank you.
For your fellowship.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Eagle.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and I just wanted to say a few final words, that this is exactly why we brought this presentation to you guys tonight, and just this why we think that this type of work would be so great in Ferndale is just because of, you know, the power that of course you guys have in terms of connections with other organizations, because it can start small, but we need a lot of partners, and we'll need teamwork to really get this going. So I think if we can have regional support as well as state support, then we can really get somewhere. But really having the ordinance on the books to showcase that, you know, this type of project will be, you know, implemented, you know, even if it's not now, but years to come, it kind of helps prepare the markets and prepare the people in the legislation to kind of catch up and show that, you know, we're serious about it and that we're, you know, hoping for things to move in this direction, because then it can really trickle down and hopefully other cities will adopt it as well. And then that's where the workforce development comes in. And, you know, that's what we saw with a lot of the other examples in terms of the ordinances that we saw. It started small, but it was able to move quickly, you know, with teamwork and with people supporting it. So thank you guys.
All right. Next on our agenda is a 4C, consider resolution of appreciation for Barb Turner, and Joe and Lorena are introducing this, I think.
Through the chair, I'll buy Lorena some walk-up time. This item is to acknowledge the retirement of Barb Turner. She served the city's Parks and Recreation Department for many decades, not just years. And so I thought we would honor that tonight. And Lorena has made her way up to the stage.
So unfortunately, the last minute Barb wasn't able to attend tonight. But I do want to say a few words about Barb. Like Joe said, she's been here for decades, over 28 years. I consider Barb our historian. When we get questions like, do we know how old Kulik is, or where could we find A, B, C, or D in the city, or what happened before all of us were here? Barb would know. So I thank her for that. I'm going to really miss her wisdom and her institutional knowledge that she's gained over the years being with the city. She's been a great advisor, designer. She designs the senior newsletter, and she took a lot of pride in doing that and starting that newsletter for them when she took over the senior program in 2004. She's also well known in the senior community. The seniors love Barb, and we joke all the time. We can have our front desk staff there, and a senior may need to come register for a trip, and they will not register with anybody else but Barb. Same system, but you know, it's like, no, we'll just wait for Barb to get back. So she really has a connection with our seniors, and it's really great. And one of the things that she shared with me, which I didn't know, was when she took over the senior program, she actually found herself smiling a lot more when she came to work. So that really warmed my heart. But Barb is a true leader. She runs a SMART program, so when everybody asks me about SMART, I don't make any decisions. I say, first let me ask Barb, because she's the one that I need to talk to, because she knows all about SMART. But I'm going to miss that. We all love Barb, and she's just done a great job and really poured into our department, and we just love her so much and make sure we keep in contact with her. But I just want to thank her and acknowledge her today as well. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And congratulations to Barb. I appreciate her long career.
Thank you, Lorraine. And we will be sending a final printed version of the resolution as well as some congratulatory flowers to her household tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you. All right, we are moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is 5, call to audience. We set aside 30 minutes for people to speak on any topic, and if 30 minutes more are required, I may choose to extend the period to continue to come public after the regular agenda. And then everybody is invited to speak for 3 minutes. We have a really large clock here to help us be mindful of those 3 minutes. And I let everybody know, sometimes people come to this is their first council meeting, and we are a welcoming and diverse community, and we want to create a respectful and judgment-free area for people to give their comment. So please be mindful of that tonight. If there's anybody here for the first time, we're glad that you're here, and we want to hear what you have to say. And remember that we have discourse with dignity guidelines, so abusive language, threats, and bullying, and personal attacks are discouraged. Getting to the root of an issue is really hard if the content is buried with disruptive or harmful behavior. So please address issues and not people, and please address city council and staff city council and myself rather than staff. All right, so with that, I invite anybody to come on up and provide public comment.
Mayor, if I may, if the council wishes, we can make a motion on that resolution. Pass that resolution for Barb Turner.
Oh, did I miss that? Sorry.
Your pleasure.
I moved on before the resolution. I apologize. Thanks for bringing me back.
I move to adopt the resolution of appreciation for Barb Turner.
Moved by James and supported by Mikulski.
James.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Weeks May.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Yana.
Yes. All right. Thank you, clerk, for keeping me on task. And back to call to audience. If there are anybody here who would like to speak on any topic you wish. How beautiful the weather is today. Not hot and sweaty. All right. Seeing none, it is July and prime vacation week. So we are going to close call to audience and move on to the section of public hearings. We technically have 3 on the agenda tonight, but all of them are being asked to be tabled, and we're going to start first with 6A, adoption of resolution to establish an obsolete property rehabilitation district at 835-845 Livernois in accordance with PA 146 of 2000. And 6B is related. Who is introducing this and can explain?
Through the chair, Mayor, I think the actual, just for point of clarity, the actual public hearing is going to proceed forward, but there will not be any action taken because it's anticipated that there will be additional information provided.
Okay.
Who's
going to introduce 6A?
I think the CED director.
Excellent. We have 4 steps to a public hearing. We have a presentation from staff. We then open it for public comment. Then the third step is that we move into questions of fact-finding from council to staff and or the applicant, and then we move into stage 4, which is motion and debate and decision-making.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. As you stated, there are 3 items before you, items 6A, 6B, and 6C. 6A and B are related. A is the designation for a district under the Obsolete Rehabilitation Act. B is the certificate, and then C is a separate public hearing on 141 Vester. Staff scheduled these as public hearings due to state law and was hopeful to work with the applicant to get the required information before the deadline. The applicant, unfortunately, was not able to provide that information. So we reached out to both applicants of 6A and B and 6C and let them know that we will, staff will support continuing this for 2 council meetings, and at that point we would consider it expired. The deadline for the August 8th meeting for the applicant to supply the information was July 22nd. The applicant did not submit the information by that time, so the next deadline, the next council meeting they could be on would be August 22nd, at which point if they don't respond with the information, we will consider it stale and expired, and then we'll have to renotice. With that said, neither applicant...
What is the deadline for the August 22nd?
Friday, I think it's the 14th, or no, I'd have to look it up. 2 weeks from July 22nd would be that date.
14 days from July 22nd.
Yeah, that'll give us enough time to talk with the incentive committee, present it to them.
The August 8th, 14 days.
Probably. I have it written August 8th, I'm sorry. I'd have to look back at the calendar, but whatever that Friday date is, would be the date.
Okay, thank you.
With that said, that concludes staff's presentation. Neither applicant is here, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
So technically, it is a public hearing.
And Your Honor, since they were identified as separate public hearings, I suggest council open the public hearing with respect to each item.
Yeah, that was my plan, and I still have to do a public comment section.
Yes, you open the public hearing.
Yes. So I'm now going to open the public hearing at 7:49 for the adoption of the resolution to establish an OPRA at 835-845 Livernois. Is there anybody here who would like to speak on this topic? Going once, going twice. I am closing the public hearing for this action item on our agenda. And now there are questions of fact-finding for Roger by City Council, if there are any at this time. Okay. Right now we're moving on to the motion and debate, but the recommendation is to table this, and we would need a motion to table.
Mayor, I move to table item, I should have clicked right on it. Item 6A, the resolution to establish an obsolete rehabilitation district at the address listed.
Just through the chair, that would be indefinitely until the information is provided by the applicant.
That's exactly what I meant.
Thank you.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Support.
Moved by James and supported by Leaks May.
James.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right. We're moving on to 6B, and it is the complimentary public hearing of the adoption of resolution to issue a certificate of an OPRA at 835-845 Livernois in accordance with PA 146 of 2000.
Thank you,
Back
Madam.
to Roger.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff is requesting to table this indefinitely until the applicant can provide the required information.
All right. I now will open it for public comment at 7:52. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a public comment about this agenda item? Seeing none, I am closing public comment at 7:52. And back to council.
I move to table indefinitely the item to issue a certificate for an OPRA at the address listed in the packet until additional information is received from the applicant.
Support.
Moved by James, seconded by Polika.
James.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right, we're moving on to 6C, which is a third public hearing that is adoption of resolution to establish a neighborhood enterprise zone at 141 Vester in accordance with the PA 147 of 1992.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff is requesting to table this item indefinitely until the applicant provides the required information.
Okay, and is their timelines the same as the previous ones?
Correct, all are the same, yeah.
All the same. Okay, so now I'm going to open up this one at 7:53 for a public hearing. And is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a comment on this item tonight? All right, folks, seeing none, I am now closing the public hearing at 7:53, and we're moving on to council for any questions regarding this item at this time, or a motion.
I move to table indefinitely the item to establish a neighborhood enterprise zone at 141 Vester until additional information is provided by the applicant.
Second.
Moved by Polika and seconded by James.
Polika.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for following along on our procedural steps of a public hearing on 3 of them. All right, so now we're moving on to the consent agenda, and I will read everything in its entirety, and the city council may decide at their pleasure what they would like to do. All right, 7A, approval of the minutes from July 11th, 2022 city council meeting. 7B, approval of the contract with Motorola Solutions, formerly known as Emergency Callworks, for the future proposed purchase of next generation 9/11 equipment and services in fiscal year 2023. 7C, approval of ductwork repairs and improvements at fire station headquarters by Rolls Mechanical in the amount of $4,000. 7D, approval of gear extractor utility installation at fire station headquarters by Great Lakes Power and Lighting and Guardian Environmental Services in the amount of $50,116.96. 7E, consideration of charitable gaming license for Centro Cultural Hispano. 7F, approval of appointments for the Sacra Board Representative and Alternate. 7G, employment contract approval. 7H, consideration to renew city self-assured coverage through the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority at the cost of $798,319. 7I, preliminary audit governance letter of fiscal year 2022. 7J, consider resolution recognizing Robert Lenaway. And 7K, approval of the bills and payrolls as submitted by the city manager's office and subject to review by the council finance committee. What is the pleasure of council tonight?
Mayor, I move that we accept the consent agenda items as presented.
Moved by Leaks May and seconded by Mikulski.
Through the chair, I'd like to read the resolution recognizing Robert Lenaway. Mayor Melanie Piana, on behalf of the Ferndale City Council, extends the city's condolences to the family of Roy Robert Lenaway. Roy Robert Lenaway served the Ferndale community for decades. Mr. Lenaway owned and operated Lenny's Copy Center and more on Hilton Road. Parents will remember him giving teddy bears to children the first time they came into his store. After closing the Copy Center, Lenny could not sit idle. In 2014, he began his school crossing guard service for the Ferndale Police Department. Furthermore, Lenny's love of community continued through his volunteer efforts with the Beautification Commission and Fern Care Free Clinic, where he tirelessly gave of his time with a smile and laughter. Robert Lenaway's love of children was evident beyond his work. He and his wife, Mary, adopted and fostered over 150 children spanning several decades. He is survived by many boys and girls who are now men and women who he considered his own. It is with heartfelt sorrow that we offer our condolences to the family of Roy Robert Lenaway. Lenny was a treasure to the Ferndale community, and his love and kindness will be missed.
Thank you so much for reading that. I'm very sorry for the family, and
Will they be getting a copy of the resolution?
we will make sure that the family gets a copy. All right, moving on to the regular agenda, which is 8A.
You have to.
Oh my gosh.
Ready?
Motion on the floor. We should have all reading of things after we vote. So I remember missing the ruling. Motion on the floor. Mr. Clerk.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right. Moving on is to the regular agenda. 8A, approval to purchase replacement backhoe from Michigan Cat in the amount of $135,477.61. And come on down, Dan Atosic, our DPW director.
Hey, good morning tonight, Mayor and Council. So tonight before you, we have the scheduled replacement for one of our backhoes. This is a 2003 Cat backhoe that we use often. Primarily these days, this is used for road repair work, water mains, snow removal, things of that nature. So it is a machine that we do use year-round. Occasionally it does get broken out to assist with our leaf removal operations. If we are working on some newer streets, damp leaves, we will push those and then haul those out. Our leaf pickers don't necessarily like those wet leaves so much. And then, so we've been looking at a cat backhoe. That's currently what we have right now. Our crew really likes the ergonomics of the cat backhoe, how it operates, alongside also just being a good all-around piece of equipment that we've had a lot of success with over the years. So tonight we are looking at asking for approval of basically the same model cat backhoe that we have now, just a bit newer. Our fleet management policy does call out for replacing our heavy equipment every 10 years or 7,500 miles. This backhoe is 19 years old and has approximately 6,400 hours on it. It doesn't have as many hours as what you would expect on it, because what we try and do is with our heavier pieces of equipment, like our backhoes and our loaders, our street sweepers, those are on a 5-year rotation, so kind of want to fall off and take on a lesser load over time. So it ensures that we have something that's constantly going, newer, that we can put some wear and tear on for the work that they're normally doing. So this is going to be replacing an older diesel engine with a lower emission diesel engine that has lower engine speeds that meets the U.S. Tier 4 final stage, Stage 5 emission standards. CAT does not make an electric version of this backhoe. There are a couple manufacturers such as like Case and John Deere that are at the very entry level of pushing out that electric backhoe. The one downside to those right now is just the amount of hours that you can operate them. They're roughly stuck at 8, and depending on what we're doing, whether it's snow removal operations or water main operations, that's not going to bode very well for us if we're going for a long period of time. So our recommendation is we would like to move forward with the replacement of our cat loader with another cat loader. It is under my deal's competitive bid contract for this loader. The total cost of the backhoe loader is $135,000. It is a 2021 model. That is because Michigan Cat ended up having a 2021 that was floating around in their inventory versus the 2022, which would run roughly $146,000. It's low engine hours. I think it has 30 hours on the engine. Mostly used as kind of like a demo for potential buyers to just check out and see how their operators like it. In addition to that, we budgeted a total of $150,000 to replace this backhoe. If we were to choose to finance over a 5-year period with annual payments, we received 2 financing quotes. One is in the council agenda. I received one earlier today. We did receive a financing quote from Comerica Bank at 3.5% interest, in addition to one from Credit Union One at 3.2% interest. Both come out to approximately $146,000 in total cost over a 5-year term if we by financing that. Keeping it, just under that $150,000 mark that we did budget for the equipment. And then, once we would take full possession of the backhoe, we would either sell at public auction our old one or trade it into the dealership if they had someone that was kind of looking for something and it was a fair market value for the piece of equipment. That's all I have on the backhoe.
If I may, through the chair.
Please.
I was just wondering, I was looking at that, and I really love how the city, how we kind of repurpose our vehicles. Can you tell me I was just curious, what would the kind of costs come back for reselling an old backhoe like that?
So, I'm waiting on that cost to come back. CAT came out last week and they had someone run through it, how it operates and things of that nature. I would assume, based on not needing much, the equipment's roughly in pretty good shape. I want to say when CAT called early in the spring, if we were still interested, because we do talk about these equipment replacements quite in advance, just because of the availability of things nowadays. You know, he had a contractor that was looking for something along those lines. I think it was $25,000, $30,000 at that time. You know, these pieces of equipment tend to hold some better value over time, even if you do put a lot of hours on them. Especially if we have, you know, quality maintenance records to back up what it is that we're replacing. There's, you know, it doesn't need new tires, it doesn't need brakes, things of that nature, which are fairly high dollar value repairs on these pieces of equipment. So based on what Kat says, you know, I'm thinking roughly 20 to 25 for this backhoe if we were to do it on basically a trade into the dealership. If we were to try to sell it ourselves, we could get more, we could get less at auction.
Are there other questions about the backhoe? It aligns with our CIP. You guys are great at making sure all these purchases align with our CIP, so which we discussed at length. So, is there a motion to proceed?
Mayor, I move that we approve the purchase of the replacement loader from Michigan Cat in the amount of $135,477.61 to the expense to be charged to the Water Sewer Fund, capital outlay, vehicle purchase account number 592-000-977.500 submitted by the DPW Director.
Second. Moved by Leaks May and seconded by James. Clerk?
Leaks May.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Kiana.
Yes. And that is approved unanimously. And we're moving on to 8B. Hang tight, Dan. Approval of the Department of Public Works to extend the contract with Ferndale's Downtown Development Authority for landscaping and maintenance services. I think Lena might be joining? No? It's just, all right. Okay, take it away, Dan.
Yeah, so we're here tonight to extend our agreement with the Downtown Development Authority for landscaping and maintenance services. The city and the Downtown Development Authority entered into an agreement in December of 2018 for the Department of Public Works to come and take over landscaping and maintenance activities for the Downtown Development Authority. Largely the scope of work that is associated with this contract is, you know, flower beds, hanging baskets, litter, graffiti removal, some tree work, some power washing, sanitation related activities, and then we will work with the DDA as they identify special projects such as revamping certain areas within the downtown. Hey, can you give us a hand expanding out this pocket park at 9 and Bermuda, putting together all this random furniture, kind of creating a new sense of place, in addition to, you know, the activation of the alley between West 9 Mile and West Troy Street, you know, hanging the lights, doing the furniture, things of that nature. Over the course of this contract, we were able to revamp quite a bit of the landscape areas, largely flower beds and things like that within the downtown area. I can't take any credit for that. That's our crew. That's our crew lead, Derek Riddell, and the folks that he has working with him. You know, overall, our department in the Downtown Development Authority has really been able to establish a great relationship over the years. The executive director of the DDA, Lena, she has allowed our crew to really take it and run with it when they see something that, hey, you know, this section of the downtown, whether it's West Troy Street between Woodward and Allen, that, you know, the north and the south side could use a bit of a revamping. This is what we're thinking. Do you like it? This is what's going to plant material, and time is going to look at, go after that. And, she approves and the crew executes. So largely, things have remained the same within the scope of work. The only thing that has really changed over the years are the addition of Addendum A, which is in the scope of work, and that's related to snow removal and de-icing services. That's something that we originally did not provide when we first entered into this agreement. Talking back and forth with Lena, especially during COVID, she figured that that would be a fair value add to the businesses within the downtown area. I mean, largely we're doing snow removal activities if there's 2 or more inches of snow within the downtown. And that's because, we are working our way through downtown. We are clearing crosswalks and things of that nature within the downtown area. And with some of the equipment that we have, we can really efficiently move through the downtown area, clean the sidewalks off, make them safe for pedestrians to walk, and then kind of we keep it moving through our normal schedule of snow removal. Over the past couple of years, our crew was able to keep up with that, so that's something that we kept in the contract this year. This did go to the Downtown Development Authority's Board of Directors early in the month of July. They did approve this, so now we're here at City Council tonight seeking approval to extend this contract. This contract extension is for 1 year. That is because when we originally brought the contract that we're working off of to City Council, that was for a year and a half to get us in line with fiscal years instead of a December contract. So now we're into the 2 consecutive optional 1-year extensions. Both of us would like to extend that contract. The biggest change is the changes in our hourly rate that the DDA is charged. And that's, really factored into, the total cost of an employee at an hourly rate. There's some equipment costs that are factored into there that, we can cover our costs, keep some additional staff on our payroll that we can then direct towards our other core services throughout the city of Ferndale and not just in the downtown as workload allows for it. So at this time, I'll take any questions from council.
Are there questions from council?
If I may, through the chair, just a comment. I remember back when we brought this contract about that the DDA would, the DPW would oversee the downtown area in partnership with the DDA, and I think they've done a beautiful job, and I think just let's keep it going.
Yes.
I think they've been doing beautifully. So
Well, thank you.
they worked very hard.
I have questions that aren't on the contract but related, but I think some about trash removal. One of my concerns has always been from the beginning of this contract is weekend support for sidewalk sweeping and garbage removal. And I know the garbage removal is a different contractor, but our trash bins are getting full by 5 o'clock on Saturdays, and our sidewalks need a little bit more care Saturday and Sunday mornings after our nighttime economy takes effect. And so I'm just wondering, that's where I'm looking for, how do we address those challenges going forward, because our downtown is getting more popular and we've beautified some key areas. And so that's just something I've always been keeping an eye out. With that said, I think what the DPW has done, our downtown is looking fantastic. And it is cleaner and brighter and definitely more welcoming than it was 3 years ago. So I really appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. And I do know that the businesses really love the snow removal during the winter. I know you guys can't do all of it, but it's a start and it's really helpful.
Yeah, so in terms of weekend coverage within the downtown area, that really does go in line with similar work that we have to do within the parks and then the bathrooms and the pavilions Saturday and Sunday morning. So typically, and I mean all year long this year, we have had some sort of coverage Saturday and Sundays in the mornings. It's usually first thing in the morning. 7:30 to 9:30. Crews will come in. They will check cans that are full or need to be pulled. Typically, we're only coming back later on Saturday or Sundays if there is like a rental pavilion where we need to make sure that the bathroom is clean, the trash are pulled for the next group of folks that are coming in. But we do want to make sure that on those hot days our ground landscape areas, they're getting watered. We know that the Friday nights and the Saturday nights in Ferndale are popular, and that there is a level of, walking the sidewalks, walking the parking lots, picking up that litter, doing a walkthrough, making sure there's no cans that need to get pulled, and just kind of checking on the general state of things within the downtown area. So typically on Saturday and Sunday mornings, we have, 2 to 4 folks that are in, but there's not usually an additional evening sweep of the downtown area. We usually leave that up to the parks, and that's largely kind of dictated partly by our workload and then our union contract and the way that is set up in terms of working hours for our crew. But our crew's done a good job this year in providing that coverage. I don't really see an issue going forward as we go, but this is also why we're doing, a year extension, and this isn't a multi-year extension, because those are conversations that Lena and I have is this sustainable for our crew, or do we need to have a different conversation? Trash is something that we've had conversations about. It's just, we haven't found that perfect answer for it yet.
And I think, I'm looking at demand for services, the DOT with Quick's Chocolate. I mean, they have ice cream, all the trash cans along there, not Anti-Hero, the formerly known as Anti-Hero, Tiger Lily, are going to open, and so a lot of these other places. So I just know that the demand for those trash cans is going to be up, and I think we'll be quite surprised about how quickly they get filled, and so just paying attention to those maintenance services as part of the support that DPW gives to our downtown.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is the DDA collecting, or is the DPW collecting and analyzing data as part of the contract here? I was just wondering what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so that's based on our monthly billings. So if you wanted to, for example, a good example would be, DDA, this is how many labor hours we spend putting mulch down. And this is how many labor hours we've spent putting mulch down in the spring over the last few years. We're going to say X number of hours. This is X number of hours that it takes for our crews to put down mulch within all the landscape areas within the downtown area. This number of hours equals an expense, right? Well, we could bring in a contractor for, let's say, $5,000 that could come in, spray all the mulch into place, get it done within 2 days, and that is 160 hours that we can put back into doing something else. And that's the stuff that we take a look at. In addition to, some of you may notice we have a different style hanging basket. That is because the hanging baskets that we have now, they're considered a labor saver hanging basket, where the water stays contained within the pot itself. There's a wick in it, draws water up. So it's one of those conversations of, we think it'd be a good investment for the DDA to move towards this style of hanging basket, because we're seeing that, on average, we're spending this many hours a week just on watering hanging baskets. We think we can reduce that number of hours to where we can divert our time and our energy towards some other aspect of the downtown area. And that's the data collection, analyzing, and helping make better operational decisions for, not only for our crews that are performing the work, but also for the Downtown Development Authority, and making sure that, their money's being used efficiently and effectively.
Thanks, Dan. Are there other questions from council?
Through the chair. So I appreciate looking into, saving costs, going with contractors when it's feasible. I would just make sure that we watch quality over price. Because one of the reasons we got rid of the previous contractor in the downtown was because they were providing basically below the bare minimum. The quality of work that they were doing was terrible, and what DPW has done since then has been incredible. And I would just hate to see us save a couple of dollars because we save a couple of hours by having a contractor do it, but they're doing it at half the quality of work.
Oh, yeah, I completely understand what you're saying. When we do get in situations like that, the mulch was kind of the first spot that we really dabbled in that. The crew lead is out there with the contractor. It's specified. This is what our spec says in terms of the coverage that we're doing. And we have someone that's on staff, or not necessarily babysitting, but popping in periodically and making sure that that is going in a good direction. And the contractor did do a really good job in terms of that work. It's definitely something that we would like to employ in our parks with our like fall zone mulch and stuff like that, because it's insanely efficient with what they can do.
I understand. It's just, our crew, I know, takes pride in the work that they do, because they want our downtown, they want our city to shine. And sometimes contractors don't, take that into consideration.
Yeah, I understand.
All right. Seeing no more questions of Jack, we need a motion to proceed.
I move to approve the extension of the contract between the Department of Public Works and the Ferndale Downtown Development Authority for landscaping and maintenance services, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement as submitted by DPW director.
Moved by James and supported by Mikulski.
James.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Leaksmay.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes.
Hey.
All right, next up is 8C, is to confirm the city clerk's appointment of Dean Lent as deputy clerk. And Anthony.
Through the chair, we have a new deputy clerk, which we're very excited about. His name is Dean Lent, and city charter requires that council confirm and approve that appointment as deputy clerk. Dean comes to us from Colorado elections, which is a highly respected state-run elections at the county level. And so he comes from that area and that arena. He's done a great job there, and he comes from Auburn Hills as well as the assistant to the DPW director, and has helped their clerk a lot with elections, and we're very excited to have him.
Thank
If you want to say hi.
Ferndale.
Thank you so much.
Glad that you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to let you all know, thank you very much for having me here. I'm very excited to be joining the City of Ferndale team. I have long been one of those customers of the nighttime economy that you mentioned. It's a great community, and the people here are just wonderful, and I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited to get to know all of you.
Thanks, Dean. And it seems like we're doing well recruiting from Colorado.
I was thinking the same thing.
Another one.
So we look forward to working with you, and just in the hot seat as well, with the primary around the corner.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, moving on is to 8.
Motion you did
Oh,
approve.
I move to approve the appointment of Dean Lent as deputy clerk and authorize the deputy to act with full authority of the city clerk, of the clerk in the city, with full authority of the clerk in the clerk's absence as submitted by city clerk. That's too many clerks.
Second.
Moved by Polika and seconded by James.
Welcome.
Polika.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Leaksmay.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes, all right, moving on to 8D, approval of the sale of city-owned properties acquired at Oakland County tax sale. And Emily, welcome, and thanks for introducing this tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Piana, and thank you, Council. I am here for the consideration of the sale of 3 properties that were acquired by the city in 2018 at the right of first refusal at Oakland County. The city had proposed a bid, requesting proposals publicly with a selection criteria that asked that the properties be either used as, what their end use either being owner-occupied properties or as affordable housing unit, rental units that accepted HUD Section 8 vouchers. So the end goal of this was to acquire the homes, provide wraparound services if there were any occupants within the homes, and then to dispose of the homes to either create, again, owner-occupied stakeholders in the community or affordable housing solutions. The city has accepted a proposal after our public call for proposals with FPJ Investments LLC. The amount the city has accepted for each home includes the cost of the purchase price for the back taxes at the right of first refusal, all staff time, any utility arrears or any necessary repairs. The city is allowed to be recouped and will be recouped for all associated costs. Any items above that and above rehabilitation are returned per state law to Oakland County. And with that, we're here for consideration of this agenda item and to answer any questions.
I will open up to council for questions, but start before making my comments.
I may, through the chair. I just had a couple questions as I was looking over the proposal. First of all, the property, it's just on a comment that what the revitalization of the properties that are shown here as examples are really, really, really nice. I really appreciate that, and I like those visuals. I just had a question regarding the Section 8 portion. It says here we would commit to keeping the property as Section 8 rental for a minimum of 5 years. Can you tell me why just the 5 years? And two, I see that if the city preferred, we would also be willing to sell it as an owner-occupant as a backup plan. Sell it to an owner-occupant as a backup plan. Do you know if they would be planning to sell it at market rate or some other or otherwise? Because there's a reason why the person was utilizing Section 8 in the first place.
I'm sorry, through the chair, I have one question. Is there anyone from FJP Investments in the audience that'd like to introduce themselves?
Yes, we have Jim.
I think the applicant could probably respond to those questions best.
Do you go by Jim or James?
Jim. Hi, Mayor and Council, and thank you for having me this evening. Yes, I'll give you a quick overview. I've been renovating tax sale properties like this since 2014. I started with the city of Wayne and Oak Park and Redford, and we've been doing it for going on 8 years now. And so we've partnered with many different communities, helped them exercise their right of first refusal, pulled the properties from the auction, renovated them. Majority of the time, sold them to owner occupants because that was the desire of the city. And let me start over too. I'm a small business. It's myself and my wife. We're a local-based business. That's why I'm here tonight. We have a very small team. The advantage is we respond to folks when there's issues. We're local, we're here, and we're committed to the communities that we work in, and we become active in the communities that we work in. And I've been working with, I think the most relevant probably experiences, I've been working with Kim Maroney in Oak Park since 2015, and Eric Tungate and Mayor McClellan. And the way she tells the story is, I took a leap of faith in 2015. My son warned me about developers, and she said it couldn't have turned out better. So we've been there for a long time, renovating properties and turning them back into their former selves and bringing them back to life. The reason why I mentioned owner-occupied in my proposal was strictly because if that was the city's desire. I felt like after talking with Emily several times, that there was a shortage of affordable housing in Ferndale, and there's a huge shortage of affordable housing across the state of Michigan. I was just in some meetings today, and they're saying hundreds of thousands of units. And I also know it because I've had a joint venture with Southwest Housing Solutions for 8 years, which is a nonprofit in the city of Detroit. We've bought many properties, renovated them, sold them, and just in talking to their executive directors, I know what the shortage is out there. So that's why we were willing to make a commitment of 5 years to the rental properties. There wasn't really a reason for 5. I just did 5. I thought 5 was a pretty long-term commitment. But again, we're not opposed to feedback from the city and doing whatever makes the city happy. And that's why we put, we're also conscious of the unfortunate situation that the occupants fall into, right? Like, if the landlord didn't pay their taxes, obviously it's not the occupant's fault, right? So that's why we do relocation assistance. We give them a minimum 6 months free rent. We help them relocate to another location so that we can get the property fully renovated, because typically these properties, once they go to tax sale, most of the time they're in disrepair. There's a reason why the landlord hasn't paid their taxes in 3 years. They also haven't done any improvements on the property in a while either. And so that gives us an opportunity to fully renovate the property, pull all the necessary permits, bring it up to code, and then get it back performing. And so that's kind of the basis of my proposal. And again, after speaking with Emily, I felt like there was a shortage of affordable housing in Ferndale, so that's why we were willing to structure the program like this.
Just to follow up, after 5 years, would you end the lease with
lead
voucher, or would you just continue it on if they wanted to stay there?
Yeah, if tenants are willing to stay, we always let them stay.
Okay.
And also, I'm here to form a partnership. Like, we've been in many of our cities since day one. And so we're constantly interacting with the folks at the city, with the council, with Emily, getting feedback. And, I'm willing to do whatever the city wants. Like, it doesn't have to be 5 years. If folks are in there, I was just looking at Section 8 today. It's interesting because I was just looking at some stuff in Section 8 today on the city of Detroit, and they're really increasing their Section 8 payment amounts because folks are at a disadvantage and they're not able to get into rental units. And the Detroit Housing Commission, which after I read a few of the articles today, I was kind of surprised. It's not just Detroit, right? They're placing tenants in all 5 counties. And they're increasing their payment amounts because folks are having such a hard time finding affordable places to live. It's really getting difficult.
I just wanted to say, your proposal just came across as a thoughtful, empathetic, someone who's going to actually partner and follows the values of Ferndale, and I just thought, well, this is a great fit. So I'm sold on all your work, and I just really appreciated the comprehensive proposal that you put in place, and specifically your work plan and what happens week by week with the construction process. I'm not sure we would have gotten that from a lot of other proposers or our bid proposals, so I think this will be interesting, really good. I'm supportive of this. So, but are there any questions from council?
Through the chair, I have a couple of questions. I too am very intrigued by the proposal. It offers a lot of really, I think, interesting incentives that you don't see a lot when people want to come in and renovate properties. My question starts with well, I guess number one, out of the properties listed here, are all of them currently occupied by renters?
One is vacant, one is occupied by a renter, and one is a unique situation. It's the former owner, well, the owner is in an assisted living facility now, and his brother and his brother's wife live in the home with his mother. So even though the former owner is not in the house, it was a unique situation, and that's why I really increased the amount of relocation assistance and the time. And I've actually had a conversation with her, and I'm actually meeting her tomorrow at 2:00 to just kind of really put her at ease. Like I told Emily, the first thing you have to do is reach out to the folks and say, you're not going to come home and there's going to be a posting on your door that says you need to move in 30 days, right? Because they've been living in this house and they've been experiencing all these tax sale postings for the last 1 to 2 years, right? So they're typically very nervous to begin with because there's really a lot of uncertainty. So the first thing you do, you just have to sit down with them and say, like, listen, we're going to work with you. We're going to be reasonable. You're not going to come back here and have an eviction notice posted on your door. And usually, that gets their confidence up and, kind of shows them that we're going to work to get a good outcome. And ultimately, because it is kind of a quasi partnership, I also have to realize that I'm representing the city in a roundabout way, right? And so my goal in 8 years, knock on wood, I've never had anybody show up at a city council meeting, right? Because that's why we really, really work with these folks to help them relocate. I explain to them, because a lot of times their first inclination is the city took my property, right? So then I have to explain the process that it's not the city, it's state law. The county's obligated in certain situations to do it. And had the city not done a program with a developer like myself, the property would have went to auction, and you most likely would have had that notice posted on your door shortly after the auction. Because that's typically what we see, especially now with the online auctions. You have investors from literally all over the world buying these properties. They hire a local management company. They could care less about who's in the house. They hire an attorney. They post the house, and then it goes from there.
I just want to remind council that this is a bid proposal, that we're accepting the bid and we're not negotiating terms of the agreement. If there was concern about doing that, we'd have to send it back to the staff in legal review.
Enough.
Just wanted to remind folks tonight.
Thank you. That is a helpful reminder. I am curious, given your experience, this is not necessary. It's a little bit off the topic of this proposal, but I'm curious if we're entering a partnership and a future relationship, if you have any experience with land trusts and programs that can help people at a lower economic income level to actually become homeowners, or whether you've partnered with any land trusts or any experience in that realm.
No, I do not have any experience with land trusts.
Okay. Thank you.
If I may, through the chair, you obviously have experience in doing this for some time now, and I was just wondering how many of the people how many homeowners are there now that benefited from your properties?
Hundreds. I mean, we've done. I think we've bought, renovated, and sold throughout various partnerships close to 1,000 houses over the last 8 years. And the bulk of those, probably 98%, were sold to owner occupants. Because that was one of the problems that the cities, once you have an investor that buys it, an out-of-state investor, you really lose control of the property. And they weren't making any improvements to the property. They were just, for lack of terms, they were just being slumlords, right? And that's why we put a dollar amount on, a minimum dollar amount. That's why I put a minimum dollar amount on the renovations, so that the city knows we're committed to doing a thorough renovation, new kitchen cabinets, granite countertops, concrete driveways when necessary. The one home doesn't have a garage, so we want to build a garage because my experience, I know what happens with houses without garages, right? Like, then there's no place to store the kids' bikes or the lawnmower or your yard tools, and they end up piled up around the house, and it's unsightly for the neighbors. And so that's why we committed to build a garage at that house.
And then I had one question for Emily. Do you remember what the purchase price was for the property that the city bought it at? Because we are approving the bid amount. So can you remind us what the sale price was for the city?
Yes.
It was, what, 3 years ago now?
2018, it's 5 years.
What?
Yeah.
I feel like I just did that.
So I'll go line by line for each home, if that's possible.
Yep.
Okay, so the full amount the city needs to be recouped for costs, so including purchase price, utility arrears, repairs, and staff time, all staff time included, up until this time last week, would be $32,414.34 for 218 Stratford. For 347 East Bennett, the full amount for the city to recoup all costs associated with purchasing the property, staff time, repairs, and utility arrears would be $11,189.03, and the full amount of $14,902.53 for 3069 Inman is what it would require for the city to be made whole for purchase price, staff time, utility arrears, and any repairs.
Through the chair, I do not believe those figures are right. Those are the prices we paid back in 2018 for those properties. That does not include all the taxes and utilities and staff time. I know that we paid at least $11,000 for Bennett, so I can't see where taxes and utilities and staff time would be added into, or be less than that.
The amount of, that is correct, and that's an error. The purchase price, if we refer to 218 Stratford, and the purchase price of $47,000, it was I apologize for a misspeak on my part. These cities can recoup the costs of staff time, utility arrears, and repairs from the bid amount, where you'll see, for example, 218 Stratford, $32,414.34, with an additional investment of $7,000. From FPJ Investments. 347 East Bennett was an additional of $7,000.
Oh, there it is.
From FPJ Investments. And 3069 with the additional investment, I believe it was $14,000. That additional number covers above the purchase price for the city, and any difference would be returned to the county.
Through the chair, could you back up on that point?
Yes, please.
What are we talking about when we say any difference would be returned to the county?
I'll use 218 Stratford as an example.
If I could, since this is being bid, the amount, as I understand it, that's being proposed by the bidder is the city's cost for the particular property, as well as all of its out-of-pocket expenditures, improvements that may or may not have been made. It's that total which is being proposed by the bidder.
Correct.
And so there would not be any type of additional amount that the bidder is paying. And so there is not going to be any monies that are remitted to the county, because the only amount that the city is collecting is the amount that it has expended to improve the property and its initial cost to acquire the property.
Okay.
Is that correct, Emily?
That's correct, and I could give a detailed example based on one of the properties if it helps provide clarity.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, I want to use 218 Stratford as the example. Purchase price was $32,414.34. FPJ Investments bid the purchase price the city had paid of the $32,413.34 with an additional bid amount of $7,000 on top of that, which exceeds the amount the city's owed in any arrears for utilities, staff time.
Excuse me, Emily, isn't the 7,000 the amount of the city improvement and additional expenditures associated with the property?
Yes.
I can, do you want me to?
Rounded to the next.
Yes. Kind of how I structured it?
Yeah.
So the amount advertised for the property is the amount of back taxes owed on the property. And that could be a result of grass cutting charges that were added to prior tax bills. It could be water bills that were added to prior tax bills. Then once the property is foreclosed on by the county calculates that amount. They come up with an amount that's owed for back taxes as part of their foreclosure process. Because by law, that has to be their opening bid at the first auction, had it gone to auction. They have to charge what was owed in back taxes. If a city exercises their right of first refusal and sells the property for more than what was owed in back taxes, they have to return the overage amount back to the county by law.
But that's not an
But
issue.
that's not in my bid. The city is allowed to recoup any fees associated with running the program. And based on my experience, $7,000 per property is what a lot of cities estimate their costs to be to facilitate the program. So that money is for the city's time and energy and effort to facilitate the program. You don't have to return that money to the county because that's for your work.
And I'm sorry, Your Honor, may I ask a question through the chair? The amount, that is from the date that the city acquired the property from the county to essentially now, is your estimate of $7,000 for the Stratford property, as an example. Is that right?
I don't get into calculating or have any experience with calculating what the city's expenses are. I just know that in many of my programs, it's $3,000, it's $5,000, $7,000, so I went with the high side. And it's really, I believe it's really after the city acquires the property, yeah, they could recoup. I believe you're correct. I think they could recoup any ongoing. But if there's any outstanding water bills, lawn cuts, anything like that, that were not part of the original amount owing to the county, we always cure those too. Let's say there's an outstanding water bill that wasn't paid, we're going to take care of that. If there was outstanding grass or debris removal or weed violations, we're going to clear up the property, get it back to zero for any outstanding bills that still exist.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Your Honor, may I ask a second question? Through the chair, you have identified a proposed renovation amount for each of the three properties. Is there a certain time frame that you are proposing to have those renovation items accomplished or achieved with respect to each of the properties?
Yeah, I think I had a proposed schedule in there. I think it's about 16 weeks from the time we gain possession of the house. And depending on on how long the existing tenant stays in 2 of the houses, for example, that will affect that timeline, right? It'll be 16 weeks from the time that we take possession, because they may stay there 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. I'm not sure. But the timeline is from the time that we gain possession of the property. Now, the one vacant house, obviously, the renovations would start right away.
So, may I offer where I'm getting stumped?
Yes, please.
It's the summary page for the suggested action on the memo, and it says the amount the city's entitled to recover for each property, which is accurate, right? But I don't know if that's what we bought it at, and the cost that we need to recoup. So if the city had, their estimate of what I don't know what was in the bid. I don't remember the bid document. So my question is, are we getting a fair deal, or at least covering our costs? Because we're committed to affordable housing. So, us not asking market rate, is it appropriate here so that we can actually get the affordable outcomes that we're looking for?
Absolutely, yeah. As the homes were taken on at first of right refusal, anything not related to purchasing the home, repairing, or past or utility arrears, the city is not allowed to keep. It's prohibited by state law and has to return any additional profit when a home is taken from right of first refusal, beyond renovation, repair, and staff time. And to provide, again, I want to make sure I provide the detail and clarification that all staff time from timesheets, utilities, repairs have all been accounted for and were addressed in the bid amounts from FPJ Investments. That was the minimum criteria, along with affordable housing or owner occupancy, is that the city has to be made whole on all investments. So anything above and beyond, again, because of state law and the way the homes are acquired, the funds would have to be returned to the county if there was a profit. Again, I can provide a detailed example of that if it helps for an illustrative purpose. But at right of first refusal, state law prohibits us from any profit.
Okay, does that answer your question, Greg?
Well, yes, but I'd like to, this is part for my sanity and for other people who might not be aware of how we got here. So if I could take a couple of minutes to kind of go through the past and move us forward. So in 2018, the city's council decided to purchase these 3 homes off of the tax rolls because we were fearful that these people were going to be evicted out of their homes if a developer just came in, paid the back taxes, and dumped a ton of money into them and sold them overpriced. We were trying to help people within our community stay in their homes. That's the reason that we chose these 3 homes, which were chosen because they were the least, required the least amount of work. We didn't want staff to invest a lot of time and energy into hiring contractors to make repairs. So these were the 3 homes. Over the years, we've had issues with some repairs. We've had issues with some of the tenants that have been in the homes. People have come and gone. One is now vacant. And the short end of this is the city really shouldn't be in a position of being landlords. And so we have decided to sell these properties to an investment company that is doing exactly what we hoped that we could do as a city, and we could not. So now we are at the point that because the city bought them for back taxes, we can only be recouped or repaid for back taxes and any improvements we've done since we've purchased those properties, and any staff time. So what is in question right now is the exact amount of staff time and fees and repairs that we have done in those 4.5 or 5 years since we've purchased the properties. And so I just want to make sure that we've identified what those costs are so that they are added to the original purchase price so that we are made whole.
Yes, sir. All items are meticulously detailed, timesheets, repairs, invoices, receipts, water billing and records. Everything is curated and noted and thoughtfully detailed.
Okay.
Ultimate transparency as much as.
So my question is to our legal counsel, does that have to be part of the motion that we make? Because I'm finding that a lot of these figures in here don't seem to align with everything, and I just want to make sure that we don't end up losing an amount because the figures weren't transpired correctly.
Right, so the bid amount, your bid has the final purchase price, but it's not in the memo, right?
Well, and it has a round out figure of $7,000, but if we've invested $8,500, I don't want to lose that $1,500. I want to make sure, now another property, we might have only invested $6,000, and I don't want to overcharge by $1,000 and then have to pay that difference to the county. I want to make sure that we're right on each property.
Through the chair, the actual motion doesn't reference the specific dollars that are being offered by the bidder in the suggested motion. It is within the documentation that's provided by Emily and in the developer's bid document. Should council wish to proceed forward, it could consider the motion as presented and further provide or consider an amendment that directs staff to re-review the submitted documentation to make sure that all costs up to the date of council's meeting are incorporated within and included within the total cost to be recouped. There are, and so that would be my suggestion, the transaction in the proposed motion that council is considering is to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the necessary deeds which would convey the properties to the selected bidder. But there is going to be additional documentation with respect to the obligation the developer is committing as it relates to the renovation and as it relates to the Section 8 housing for a minimum of 5 years. That's going to be a separate agreement that would be prepared and be required for the bidder, the proposed bidder, to execute.
For the record, I just want to restate the final purchase price because it's not in the memo, right? It doesn't include the bidder's service administrative fee.
Well, through the chair, I think if we made a motion that included the original prices, which are the $32,414.34 for Stratford, $11,189 for East Bennett, and $14,902 for Inman, and any additional cost fees and staff time as calculated by city staff be the final price for each.
Okay, so you're not interested in taking the bidder's proposal of $7,000?
I don't know if we'll be made whole on every property. Because if we're made whole on one, or if we have too much money on one, we can't take it to the other. We can't roll over money from one property to another. So I want to make sure that we're made whole on each of these. And no offense to you, sir, but I just want to make sure that, our constituents have been, paid back the money that, we've invested in these properties.
Through the chair, one option for council to consider would be to table it to the next meeting. There is not, I assume that the proposed bidder is still interested in the project, to allow for confirmation with respect to those costs so that a more clear motion could be presented for council's consideration at its next council meeting.
Through the chair, I will say I participated in an internal bid opening, and this topic was covered, though it's not in the packet, that is true. But I'm confident that Emily has the systems in place to track all the staffing resources that has been her responsibility, and I'm confident she'd be able to share those details with tonight. I would, as an alternative consideration, if you wanted to just move this forward, you could also consider some language in the motion pending final review of cost confirmation or cost analysis for city costs by the city attorney and city manager, and I'd be more than comfortable. with that as well.
What's the comfort level from council on that?
Well, I have a question to our council with an S. Could we say something to the effect of, you know, the original purchase price plus $7,000 or the actual costs owed to the city, whichever is higher?
Well, or whichever's less, really, because if it exceeds the city's cost, that
Well,
excess goes to the county. Right. So to be more accurate and address the city's fiduciary concerns, it would be whatever's less.
Not whatever's less, because then if something comes in over 7,000, then we would be leaving money on the table.
The actual amount.
The 7,000 is a guesstimation.
Sounds like.
Yes. The gentleman actually said that it's a calculation that you've made based on other properties you've worked with in the past.
Through the chair, Emily, if you could just clarify, does $7,000 meet or exceed the carrying costs for each of these properties?
It exceeds the amount owed for each property.
Thank you. And you have the detailed reports that you could share with us?
I do, including staff time, any repairs.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, so we would be, and based off of that information, it's most likely we would be returning money to the county. So we want to rectify that.
Well, look, can I add something in there?
Sure.
Because you're also by law allowed to recoup expenses going forward for administering the program. So going forward, I'm going to be preparing reports for Emily, for you all, before and after photos, expense reports on the houses. And so that's where I do a guesstimate, right? Because nobody knows what those costs are going to be. And so you're not only allowed to recoup your costs going backwards, you are also allowed to recoup some costs moving forward for administering the program. And that's where nobody really knows exactly what those costs are. That's why most cities just do a flat fee.
Okay.
They just say, we're going to charge X for administering the program going forward.
Well, that's new information.
Well, through the chair, that's assuming that we're going to continue buying houses and then selling them again. And to me, that's a program. I'm not interested in doing that going forward.
Well, no.
I'm done being a landlord.
Through the chair, if I understood his comment, I think he's talking about this transaction doesn't conclude tonight. Additional staff time
Correct.
will be spent. So that can be included. We don't have to cap the fees at wherever they stopped, when Emily.
And the city has confirmed this detail in writing with the Oakland County Treasurer's Office for clarity, to make sure all costs are covered.
Through the chair, can I just do a quick barrage of questions?
Sure.
These will all be softball questions as opposed to all the pricing here. Emily, could I start with you? Could you tell me, how many proposals did we receive? Why do we place properties on BidNet? And is it accurate to say that this is the minimum bid and that that's typical of the kind of bid that we would get through BidNet for these, what were they called? Tax acquired property?
Yes, yeah, well, tax acquired properties. So and forgive me if I leave one question out, and remind me to circle back to it, please. The full number of bids we received, 6 bids were received. The choice to place them on Mitten or BidNet is it has a network that of purchasers of all varied backgrounds, and it is a public forum versus, say, putting them on sale with a real estate agent, because the homes were not available for tour. It wasn't an auction; it was a bid process. So BidNet automatically, or the Mitten, MITN, it's a kind of a clever name, right? Mitten, training in Michigan. I did it backwards. Stage, yeah, anyway. Trying to inject some humor, right? And the choice to use that again is it has a built-in network. When you place an item for a bid, whether we do it for an equipment or a bid from vendors, or when we've done it for CDBG-related activities, there's categories that you associate with your bid, and registered applicants are automatically notified. So you're getting experienced and thoughtful clientele that are already intimately involved in that particular field and that criteria that you have. So we did receive bids from firms and individuals, whether they're investments or individuals looking to purchase singular properties for personal use. So while there were few bids, the bidders themselves were varied. And I do believe I forgot one of your three questions. I apologize.
Is it accurate to say that this is a typical structure where it's the minimum reserve price as the bid plus a certain dollar amount to cover city admin?
Yes, in this case, when we're talking about right of first refusal acquired homes, it is a relatively, we're fortunate that we have such a great treasurer's office at Oakland County that have, Jill Robinson in particular, if I could acknowledge her thoughtfulness and aid in guiding the city through this process. But Jill and the Oakland County Treasurer's Office helped us understand what was required of the city to perform these sales and to recoup costs, and using their framework and understanding of what the city's bandwidth is, or allowable bandwidth. We follow that to a T, again, with county guidance. And so typical, I would say this is not typical if I'm providing commentary. Most homes that will go to right of first refusal, those are evictions, and immediately loss of shelter, as Councilman Polika had mentioned, and that need for wraparound services is lacking aggressively around the country. And so this did provide us, in this singular situation, an opportunity to prevent that. And all steps, again, were taken with each step was taken with the utmost written approval of the county treasurer's office. And again, I'd like to highlight the efforts of Jill Robinson in particular.
Jill is an absolute treasure.
Cute.
Do we happen to know the condition of the properties inside and out?
We do, with the exception of 3069 Inman. The city was not able to do a full inventory of the home just due to its, essentially we didn't want to breach the property, break the door down, and then have to repair a door. We own the property, so we're able to peek in all the windows and get an assessment. But we never intentionally breached, we would have had to damage the property, gain injury. Unfortunately, the locks were damaged. But all properties we are familiar with inside and out, and on a continued basis with regular check-ins as required by city administration.
The two properties that have occupants, do those both have a certificate of occupancy and they meet code?
Yeah, for clarification, certificates of occupancy are typically, to use city nomenclature, they're only going to be granted at times of new construction for residential purposes, or at reoccupancy if we're talking about commercial. In terms of the homes, as we weren't technically operating then strictly as rentals, again, citing Mr. Polika's comments, we're not landlords, but all homes were inspected regularly and held to the standards that all rental homes would be, which would be a strict compliance to the 2015 IPMC. So that's life, safety, and sanitation requirements, correct?
And final question, would it be possible, so were these part of the housing commission, or managed through the housing commission?
No, they were not.
They're not? Is it possible or out of the bounds of our purview to potentially gift these to the housing commission or to like a Habitat for Humanity, where the person who lives there currently could potentially have the ability to have equity and do renovations and things like that, so that they could stay in the community instead of, again, no shade to you, but instead of being moved out of the house for renovations by an outside investor, could they do it themselves? Is there any sort of avenue for that?
There are vendors and partners in the area that we've explored this with. And unfortunately, the timeline is a bit protracted due to COVID and rising material costs. And we also didn't want to place occupancy, knowing that the city could recoup costs. We didn't want to place anybody who might be involved in a situation of heightened danger when it came to their housing situation during the pandemic. As far as partners that specifically do the work, while they are in the area, and we had explored these, we did have great contact with Habitat for Humanity, but unfortunately, we did not receive a bid from them, because we do like to hear from all of our partners, even without preference. But I think what we received from FPJ is, truthfully, when you're looking as, and you can see in their bid document, we provided the references and communities they've worked with and their metrics of success. I know they were just your metrics, but I'm going to call it success, because that is why it was the winning bid. You'll see that they performed heads above. If you're going strictly by numbers, than some of the local nonprofits. And I can't tell you why. I can just tell you by the numbers. They are performing well. And I'm really hoping that as material costs come down this year, we're seeing up to 32% reduction in the board per foot cost of lumber. It's still not enough. Lumber packages are still almost $30,000 over what they were 4 years ago.
Deconstructed materials.
It all ties back together, doesn't it? And so that's the long and short of it. Yes, we've explored these options, and I'm hoping as the market bolsters, we can continue to have competitive bids, which I think is something even when we're satisfied with vendors. I prefer a nice competition within CED to make sure we're always bringing the best product in front of you, the council and the mayor and the city.
Through the chair, to address the question about the Housing Commission, when we did purchase these properties, that was a conversation that we had, was could we do that? And according to HUD, the city is not allowed to give houses to the Housing Commission.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Because that was one of the things that we talked about when we originally purchased them, was that an option? And because of federal funding, the government won't allow us to do
Right,
that.
and they have like a certain threshold.
And the Michigan Constitution.
Okay, sure. Through the chair, Jim, could I ask you a couple questions?
Absolutely.
All right, just got them bullet pointed out here. Could you let me know how many of these you have done in Ferndale, and that includes rentals as well as renovations and then sell into owner occupied? How many of the properties that you have done this with are currently Section 8? Will you keep these exclusive to Section 8? And when I say exclusive, I'm really asking, will you market it on the Section 8 website rather than on a site like Zillow or Trulia as accepting Section 8 but still open to other applicants? Who does the property management? I saw Keller Williams referenced in there, but it sounds like you're involved in some way. And I'll stop there.
Yeah, you've done. Yeah, I'm going to try to remember all those. So I'll go backwards. So the property management, we have our own in-house property management company. It's myself and my wife and my son. And so we manage everything ourselves in-house, which, again, we feel like it gives us a competitive advantage because we get to actually know our tenants. I mean, my wife could we're not a huge company. I think we have 40 single-family houses. My wife could probably tell you the name of every single tenant. And if they have a problem, they reach out to her. If they're having problems making a payment in a particular month, they'll call her up and she'll say, yeah, take a couple extra weeks, don't worry about it. We don't have like this rigid system in place that you need when you manage 5,000 properties, right? There's no exceptions to the rule because you just have to have this cookie cutter approach when you're a large company, otherwise it doesn't work. So we handle the property management and we know all of our tenants intimately. I'm sorry.
Some of those.
You're going to have to help me. I
How many
apologize.
do you have in Ferndale?
So currently, I think we have one or two rentals in Ferndale. They were part of a joint venture with Southwest. Southwest came to me a few months ago and said, we want to get out of the single-family business and kind of get back to our core, which is low-income housing. They asked me to buy them out, so I did. I'm sorry.
The Section 8, how many Section 8 do you have?
So we currently have 3 Section 8, and then that takes me to your first question, which is, my plan would be to contact a local, for lack of terms, Section 8 vendor, right? Somebody who has Section 8 tenants in waiting that can't find places and work to place them in these houses, rather than put it on the open market. Because I know what happens when it goes on Zillow. There's going to be 150 phone calls the first day, and trying to filter through all of that for Section 8 is going to be not easy. So I think the prudent way to handle this particular arrangement is to reach out to the folks that have a waiting list of Section 8 tenants, and then work with them to place those tenants in these homes.
And that would be the Ferndale Housing Commission.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
That's perfect.
And if I can barrage you with 4 more questions, I think. What sort of rent rate do you anticipate placing on these properties?
Well, I would get some feedback from the Ferndale Housing Commission and kind of see, because normally there's caps on Section 8, right? If it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, they're going to have a dollar amount, right, that they'll pay. And then sometimes, depending on income, like we have a couple of tenants where the Section 8 pays, for example, let's say $850 a month, and then the tenant pays $6,250, which is required as a participation through the Section 8 placement commission, and that's usually related to their income. But they kind of want to see them establish some responsibility, and that's why they require a little bit of payment on their side. So again, I would work with the Ferndale Commission, Housing Commission, to kind of figure out where the rents need to be. I mean, that's the beauty of doing the program this way, right? Is I'm not paying market value for the houses. So then I have flexibility in providing affordable rent to some folks who need affordable rent. And that's the advantage of not doing a market rate transaction.
If you were selling them instead of turning them into rentals, would you be selling at market rate? Or would you consider trying to make those affordable as well?
I would consider, when we get down the road, I would consider input from the city. I mean, what I would say is typically cities like the market rate sales only because it helps the values of the properties in the area, right? It provides higher comps, which the appraisers can use. When you do a below market rent or market sale, it can affect the values. But again, that's something we can discuss down the road.
Okay, and last question. Is there any way that you can get the people that are currently living in the 2 occupied units back into those homes where they have basically put down roots in this community?
If they want to.
If they want to.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to having them stay as tenants if that's their desire.
If I may.
And I'm not opposed to that.
In the bid, which was attached to the agenda item, it was offered as a possibility for, well, not Inman, but to stabilize housing, including maintaining the occupants in the home. Obviously not during renovations temporarily, but yes, every effort is made, and it's in FPJ's bid document. Every effort would be made to maintain them as Ferndale residents, but always housing stability is the first underpinning.
So is it fair to say the $10,000 relocation could potentially go towards them moving out temporarily, but they could potentially be offered the right of first refusal to come back and pay rent within those units?
Absolutely.
Okay, super cool.
Through the chair, I just want to offer, I'm sorry, one more clarification. I do apologize, Caroline. I've heard a lot about FPJ's program, and I just want to be clear, that's their program. Our process closes at the disposition of the property. We don't have any obligation to follow up. We just oversee the terms and conditions.
And reporting.
Yeah. No program.
Right.
No property program.
Right, yeah. We're accepting a bid tonight, and the bid price is this amount. If the bid price clarifications have been answered by staff and there is an amenable solution or amendment to the resolution, that is, because I prefer not to table this and bring it back. We've had such an extensive conversation tonight, which I appreciate. This is our first time going through this, so I appreciate both of your expertise, Emily and Jim, navigating this tonight. So can I just sort of do a reset where we're at with the resolution and where you are with the bid price?
Through the chair, can I just make one final comment before we do that?
I had a comment.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
So I just want to have some clarity. So it looks like what you've typically been doing when you get these properties is that the renovation costs and then the assessed value, that's what you sell it for. Is that correct?
Typically what we do is we renovate the property and then we sell it on the MLS at market value. That's typically how it works in many of the communities. And we like the MLS because it provides equal access to all buyers, rather than doing it in kind of an off-market sale, right, where, you know, my uncle's son needs a property, right, and I'm like, hey, I renovated this great house over here. That's why we've typically done MLS, listed it on MLS with a licensed realtor and a broker, arm's length transaction, fair access to everybody to buy the property when we sell them.
To the chair, just a thought, because what you're saying is listing it through MLS offers free market access and the greatest opportunity, but we tend to list it on BidNet. And I feel a disconnect there, and I feel like this is something that in the future, maybe council discusses about future properties or future items. God forbid that we go through this again. But if we did, it would be great if a scrappy first-time home buyer like myself back when I was 25 and bought my house for $100,000, which I could never do now, it would be great if I had that opportunity. I would have fought to the death to get one of these homes back when I was 25 and trying to get into Ferndale. And I feel bad for those people who are never going to be able to experience the equity of homeownership by buying at a price that is feasible for them, instead of having this opportunity for rentals. And again, no shade to you on rentals, because it is a valuable service and this is a great proposal. But when you say MLS offers the best opportunity, I question why we're not putting it out there. That's it.
Through the chair, so my final comment was, number one, thank you, Emily and Jim, for entertaining a lot of questions. And thank you, Councilman Pollica, for giving some of that historical context. This is outside of the bounds of what we're usually dealing with, so we had a lot of questions. And to you, Jim, I urge you to reach out to Heather, the director of the Ferndale Housing Commission, and establish a relationship. She can give a lot of insight and guidance into the needs of Section 8 voucher users in our community. So the sooner the better. She's a great resource.
And there might be another partnership between you and them.
I'll call her,
Exactly.
I'll actually call her tomorrow.
On another thing that they're doing.
Yeah, Emily can do an introduction for me.
On
That's
another
awesome.
program. So when you say partnership, we're already looking at other ways to explore. All right, so let's redirect back to this resolution, or this motion, and see if we can get it to meet our legal counsel requirements and council interests, so we can get this over the finish line tonight. Is there a suggested edit by legal counsel and/or legal counsel is on council?
Through the chair, it appears that Emily's memo in council's packet, on page 2, identifies the amount of the bidder's bid amount. It does not seem to include the separate $7,000 figure, which is the same for each of the 3 properties. So it seems like the motion could be to address the additional $7,000 as it relates to all 3 of the properties.
As confirmed by the staff.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, because the goal is not to give money back to the county. That's what we want to assure in our motion, right? At the end, right? And making sure we're getting fair compensation of the estimated time going forward on working with Jim on this program, per house.
So, Your Honor, again, through the chair, you could accept the submitted bid amount as set forth in the agenda item with an additional $7,000 to be paid by the bidder for each of the properties, subject to a city manager report with respect to the expenditure and any amount, if and should the expenditure not reach the $7,000 figure. Concern is if it's more than $7,000.
Well, sorry, through the chair, can we just make a statement of any additional fees identified by staff? I'm trying to think of the right wording. We know that Emily has the figures available to her, we just don't have them tonight. I'm trying to think of a wording that can indicate that.
Through the chair, for the motion, I have here as a potential submitted bidding conditions offered by FGP Investments, including the cost to recover city expenses.
So the 7,000 is not mentioned at all?
To accept the submitted bid and?
The cost to recover city expenses.
I like that.
Emily allowed to be flexible.
Is that?
So let me give that a shot in the form of a motion. Move to approve the sale of city-owned properties acquired at Oakland County tax sale to FPJ Investments LLC as submitted by the Assistant Building Official and Community Development Specialist to accept the submitted bid and conditions offered by FJP Investments LLC, including recovery of all payable costs to the city, and to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the necessary documents and agreements for the transfer of the properties.
Support.
Moved by James, supported by Polika.
I do have one question for, I'm not sure if it's Joe or Emily. Will anything be coming back to council in the future?
In reference to these properties?
Yes.
Sticking to the timetable of 14 to 16 weeks that Jim has disclosed, I think it would be thoughtful, and it was part of our plan to revisit this in the fall or early winter when the agenda.
At that time, I'm making a request that the final amounts be made available of how much we acquired for these properties, including any of the fees and taxes, all of that, so that it's on public record that that's the transaction that took place.
Absolutely, yes. Our record keeping has been excruciatingly diligent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, I have one more question. So I noticed that in this proposal, there's indication that said if the city wanted to move with a different time frame as far as 5 years, as far as the Section 8 housing, or if they wanted to allow it so that the homeowner, the occupant could be considered to purchase the home, who's going to make those decisions exactly? Does that go to you, Emily? Who does that go to?
It goes to Jim. We are disposing of the property and we have no control over what happens to the property afterwards, but we are giving it to a bidder who's committed to meeting a lot of our requirements.
I will say this, that I have been listening attentively, if that's the right word, and I'm not looking to, I look to build long-term relationships, and you typically don't do that if you go against the will of the city council. We'll just leave it at that.
Yes.
So I will be working closely with Emily. We'll work together to figure out good solutions for everybody.
And in the 5 years, so that's part of the accepted bid, so will be part of the final documents as referenced by Dan Chris.
All right. Motion on the floor. Let's go, clerk.
James.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Yana.
Yes. Thank you, Jim, for walking us through this tonight. Emily, well done.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And,
I look
thank
forward
you.
to working with y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. On to the next item on the agenda, which is called a council. So I'm handing it over to the city manager to have staff do updates and take it away.
Thank you, Mayor. We will begin with our assistant to the city manager, Denicia Woods-McSwain. I think it's your first time kicking everybody off.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is just an announcement that the public comment for the Citizens Police Review and Advisory Board ordinance is now live on the city's website. So if you go to the homepage and you scroll down just a bit to the news stories, it'll be the first news story that you see. You can click on that and you'll be able to view the draft ordinance and participate in the public comment survey. And that'll be up for 2 weeks, ending on Monday, August 8th. So yeah, just wanted to give y'all a heads up.
Thank you so much. Chief Emmy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just one brief announcement. Our street corner roundtable we found a date and we found some residents to host us. Well, it'll be August 3rd at 6 p.m. at the corner of East Hazelhurst and Paxton, and at 7 p.m. at West Webster and Edgewood. We encourage all residents, you don't necessarily have to be from those neighborhoods, but we encourage all residents to come out, especially from those neighborhoods, And we encourage any other staff members or elected officials that want the opportunity to piggyback and meet some residents. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. Many of you on this council have visited us and met a lot of great residents that way. So again, August 3rd at 6 and 7 p.m. at East Hazelhurst and Paxton, and then at West Webster and Edgewood. This will be posted on our webpage, and the city webpage. Communications was happy enough to produce a nice flyer for us, so it'll be posted there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Communications. Next, Anthony, our city clerk, has an announcement.
Just a reminder that we have a primary election coming up August 2nd, which some council members are participating in and helping out at our polls, which is much appreciated. Preparations are well underway, and we're feeling excited about it. Also, I passed out a flyer to you about a proposed new program that we'd like to pilot during the August election and then ramp it up a little bit during the November election, is 2-hour windows for ballot pickups for those that are unable to deliver their ballot any other way, which meets the legal standard there. So we just wanted to share that and submit that for any comments.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Ditto.
Nice innovation, Anthony. Thank you so much. Next is Lorena Wheeler, our Parks and Recreation Director.
All right, just a few. Our Ferndale Fall Festival is approaching fast. I know we don't want to think about fall yet, but it'll be on October 1st. We are opening up and advertising, looking for sponsors at this time. So if anybody's interested to be a sponsor at Fall Fest, we can yield anywhere from 800 to over 1,000 participants and families that attend. We are also starting to solicit for volunteers as well. For that event, it's very heavily dependent on volunteers for its success. We are continuing our Movie in the Park series, which will end in August. And our next movie will be at Schiffer Park on August 4th at 7:30 p.m., where we'll be playing Bend It Like Beckham. And then we also have the very last one on August 18th. Both of these are on Thursdays at Harding Park, where we'll be ending it with Park at Night, where it'll be a movie in the park. We'll be showing Moana. We'll also have live music as well as other activities, and that's going to start at 6 p.m. And then lastly, we held our Splash Pad grand opening event the Saturday before last, and it was a great success. We had over, I'd say about 500 to 600 people that funneled through the event. We heard great things about it. I know we've been getting a lot of questions about the status of the Splash Pad. So currently, it's not open at this time, but we are hoping that it will be open very soon. There's just been delays with shipping, unfortunately, so we should have the replacement part very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorena. Perfect complement to that is our DPW Director, Dan Antosik. Maybe you've been tracking our shipping.
Yes, I have multiple times a day. It's refreshing. But no, so it's just kind of a snag in the shipping to get here. So I'm hoping I didn't get an update yet today. So there is still time in the day to get that. But no, as soon as that comes in, we're going to be swapping out an item and get the splash pad back up and running as soon as possible. The only kind of silver lining to that all is it's a great time for us to get the path improvements done at Martin Road Park while there's not a lot of kids playing around the heavy equipment. So that is taking place right now, and we should have that all buttoned up hopefully by the end of this week. And that, largely segues into just general construction updates. At this point, we're roughly 70% done with our 2022 pavement improvement program. Contractor's been performing great. It's very exciting to see a smooth Paxton. It's been a long time coming for that, that's for sure. Water main's moving along. Camborne, we are looking at paving the top course of pavement about the first week of August, weather dependent. So that project will be wrapped up before Woodward Dream Cruise. And then I believe by close of business tomorrow, we will have replaced our total number of required lead service line replacements by the state of Michigan, which is 413. And we'll continue plugging along for the remainder of the year. We'll probably take a break in August into September so we can redirect our program manager towards the sidewalk improvement program and doing some inspections on that side of things. But we're just plugging along with construction this year. It's been going really well. We have a good group of contractors in town. So, thank you.
Through the chair. The part that broke on the splash pad, is that a part that may be prone to break, and should we order an extra one to keep on hand?
So it is covered by the manufacturer. It's not necessarily a easy replacement part to keep on hand. In speaking with the Vortex, who we purchased the equipment from, it did not sound like this is a commonplace item. But what we will be doing is we'll be swapping out kind of an entire unit that this is a part of. That there's basically two pieces of it. One piece is bad, one piece is good. We'll be putting the good piece on the shelf and just swapping out a completely new unit for what we got to swap out. So we do have
At their cost?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. There's no cost to us. If, let's say, for
Except
example,
crying children who don't get to use the splash pad.
and you can't put a cost on that. Although an attorney in a room might be able to put a cost on that. So no, as soon as that comes in, we're gonna get that swapped out. Vortex has been doing what they can. It's all on their cost, whether, if one of our crew members were to go out and swap out what needs to be swapped out, we could send them a bill for the cost that we incurred because of it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Couldn't write a better Parks and Rec episode.
Clarify, council, we will not be pricing childhood tears.
I'll just go home and collect them and pour them out on city.
I'm pretty wealthy, yeah. Finally, I just wanted to offer also congratulations to Parks and Rec and DPW and the Water Department specifically. It was a great splash pad event. I really enjoyed participating. Both the police chief and fire chief also stepped up as our grill masters, and I appreciate all the efforts of all the staff. I think I saw representation from every department supporting the effort. So thank you to staff for that effort. And finally, I just wanted to say we were lucky enough, the city manager's office, Denicia Kahn and I, to meet with the new superintendent last week, Dr. Bobby Hayes Goodrum. She did visit us at City Hall, and I really just wanted to say welcome, thank you. I really appreciated the time, and we were really impressed and can't wait to work with you.
All right.
Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to start with Councilwoman Leaks May.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't have much to say other than I just wanted to provide acknowledgement for earlier on the consent agenda. We approved Central Cultural Hispano, and I just wanted to acknowledge that one of the parents that organizes that event is in the back. Raise your hand, Era. Hi. Era is a parent at Ferndale Schools and has done a lot of work to provide cultural and experiences to our students. And this event in Ferndale was about 3 years strong. About 3 years strong. So it's, I hope you're able to come out and participate in that. I believe August 8th and 9th this year. October, thank you. So thank you, Era, for bringing your culture to Ferndale and allowing us to experience it and learn and grow. That's all I have for tonight, Mayor.
Excellent, thank you. Councilman Polka.
I have nothing this week.
Okay. Bring it on over here. Councilwoman James.
As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, we had our first kickoff meeting of the SEMCOG Legislative Policy Platform Task Force last week. So this is my open invitation to city staff and residents. If you're interested in reviewing the policy platform from 2 years ago and give me any thoughts or input on amendments that need to be made, new additions that weren't addressed back then or something that should be changed, please reach out to me at kjames@ferndalemi.gov. Also, last week, one of the closing meetings, I think we have one more, of the SEMCOG Water Infrastructure Task Force took place. So you can look forward to seeing some more information coming out from SEMCOG on our water infrastructure, from drinking water to wastewater management, affordability for residents, addressing overflow events, adapting to climate change. A lot of really, really meaty topics have taken place on that task force. So if you want more information about that, again, connect with me via email.
Excellent.
I have nothing additional tonight.
Excellent. I just wanted to say thank you to all the residents who came out to the splash pad opening too. I talked to a lot of parents about their experiences in their neighborhood and the parks, and it was just wonderful to hear affirmations about what we're doing here in the city and the investments we're making to make our parks better. So thank you, residents, and thank you, parents. And then I sometimes get asked to be a guest speaker at graduate level classes, and I've been asked to speak on sort of regionalism and transportation at the U of D Mercy School of Architecture for the Master of Community Development Program students on regional sustainability and development. So right up my alley of what I like to talk about, and well, you're going to be doing that this week. So I just want to let you know that all of our city council members do a variety of things to share our experiences in the community. And then finally, just wanted to say that last week, Executive Coulter helped convene the county SEMCOG and the mayors in the cities in Oakland County from Ferndale to Pontiac to talk about shared issues along Woodward and look forward to productive conversation going forward. So just want to say that's restarting again. It used to happen a long time ago, and it's coming back around again. So that's all I've got. It is 9:46, and we're calling it. Thanks, everybody, for participating tonight and joining. See you next time.